Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a story that spans millennia. It connects ancient prophecies to current events, describing this hidden cosmic battle that, well, shapes all of human history.
Hmm.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into an incredibly influential book, The Great Controversy by Ellen G. White.
Right. First published way back in 1858.
Yeah, and it's much more than just a history book. It's this blend of history, prophecy, theology, spiritual counsel.
A whole mix.
Exactly, presenting the sweeping narrative of the conflict between Christ and Satan from the very beginning right through to its dramatic conclusion.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how the book really tries to give you this comprehensive
A
framework
framework for what,
for
exactly?
understanding all of human history, but through a very, very specific theological lens.
Gotcha.
So for our deep dive today, our mission, really, is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge from this source. It's quite dense. We'll guide you through its core arguments, its unique historical interpretations, and its pretty provocative prophetic outlook.
So you get a clear understanding of the structure, the key themes, the central messages.
Exactly. And just to be clear, we're not here to endorse its specific viewpoints.
No, absolutely not.
We're here to impartially explore the ideas inside the book, help you understand why this text has resonated with so many people and what it actually asserts about things like truth, freedom, and, well, the future.
So right at its heart, the book basically says that all of human history is like the unfolding of this massive cosmic battle.
That's the core premise, yeah.
A struggle between Christ and Satan. And it's specifically over what? Loyalty, truth, and even how we worship.
Precisely. Loyalty, truth, worship. Those are the key battlegrounds in this cosmic narrative. It's a grand story, part of her larger Conflict of the Ages series.
Right, and it doesn't just start in the abstract, does it? It grounds this cosmic battle in, like, actual historical events.
It does. It kicks off with the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, and it presents that event as a direct fulfillment of Jesus' own prophecy.
Interesting. So what's the interpretation there?
Well, the book argues Jerusalem's fall wasn't just, a historical tragedy. It frames it as a consequence of rejecting divine truth.
Ah, setting a pattern.
Exactly, a pattern for this ongoing cosmic conflict.
And it talks about the early church, too, right? There's this kind of paradox.
Yes, it highlights how persecution, rather than crushing the early church, actually seemed to strengthen believers, refining their faith.
So how does it explain that period setting the stage for this whole truth versus error theme that runs through the book?
It basically argues that the early church thrived most when it stuck closest to what the book calls primitive truth.
Okay.
So this period establishes that foundational theme.
Mm-hmm.
Loyalty to truth, even when things get really tough, is what leads to divine preservation, according to the text.
Makes sense within its framework.
From there, the narrative moves into the time after Emperor Constantine.
Right, when Christianity became more institutionalized.
Yes, and the book describes this as a time of, well, significant corruption. Widespread superstition creeps in, and there's intense persecution, not just from outside forces, but actually arising within the medieval church itself.
And this next part seems pretty crucial to the book's argument. It talks about the rise of the papacy as a system that, according to the book, really distorted the gospel message by mixing religion and politics.
That's a central claim. It argues this merging was a major departure.
And it connects this to prophecy, too, doesn't it, from Daniel and Revelation, like the little horn power. Can you unpack that a bit? What does the book mean by little horn?
Sure. So in the book's interpretation, the little horn power is symbolic language from the book of Daniel.
Okay.
It's interpreted as a persecuting power that emerges from the Roman Empire, and it wields both religious and political authority.
Ah, so a combined power.
Right. And the book asserts that this specific combination, this merge of church and state, and the suppression of individual conscience and biblical truth that followed, that became a major focal point in this cosmic conflict.
How so?
Well, the idea is that this system obscures God's true character and authority, which is what Satan in this narrative is trying to achieve. And this whole situation, according to the book, sets the stage for the Protestant Reformation.
Which the book portrays as a direct challenge to that system.
Exactly. It champions the Reformation.
It talks about figures like Wycliffe, Huss, Jerome, Luther, Calvin, Zwingli, portrays them as quite heroic.
Yes, not just historical figures, but key players standing for truth against suppression.
So beyond just their courage, what was it that these reformers in the book's view truly rediscovered that was so important for this cosmic battle?
The book really emphasizes two main things they rediscovered.
Mm.
First, the Bible is the sole authority.
Above church tradition or human decrees?
Correct. And second, the doctrine of salvation by faith alone. And the book argues this wasn't just like a theological adjustment. It sees this rediscovery of biblical authority as a direct countermove by God against Satan's attempts to muddy the waters, to obscure truth.
So a critical turning point in the whole cosmic struggle.
That's how it's framed. And it also reinforces the idea that even though these reformers faced intense persecution, God preserved his truth through them.
And it wasn't just a one-off event, the Reformation?
No, that's another key point. The book really stresses the need for ongoing reformation. It wasn't just something that happened back then. It's presented as a continuous process, vital for keeping the truth pure.
That's a really strong claim the book makes. So after the Reformation, how does the story navigate things like the Age of Reason, the Enlightenment, the Great Awakening? Those periods brought new challenges, right? Secular challenges to faith.
It does address those. It explores the Enlightenment and the rise of secular thought, but then it pivots its focus, interestingly, to the rise of religious liberty, especially in America.
America as a new stage.
Kind of, yeah. The book presents America as this new arena for the final act of the conflict. Why? Because its constitutional guarantee of freedom of conscience.
Right. Separation of church and state, freedom of religion.
Exactly. And widespread Bible distribution. This created an environment, the book argues, where a purer form of religion could potentially flourish, where true loyalty to God could be tested without government force.
And that ties into one of its core messages then, freedom of conscience.
Absolutely central. The idea that true religion cannot and should not be forced, that liberty is fundamental to God's way of operating.
And it connects this era in America to specific religious movements, too. I think it mentions Adventist origins and the Millerite movement.
It does. The Millerite movement in the 1800s, which preached Christ's soon return, is discussed.
So how does the book see the Millerites fitting into this bigger picture, this entire narrative? They famously got the timing wrong on Christ's return.
Right. The book acknowledges the timing errors, but interprets the movement itself as a kind of a divinely appointed awakening.
An awakening. For what purpose?
To prepare a group of people for what it sees as the final phase of this cosmic controversy. It suggests this renewed interest in prophecy, even with its mistakes, was a sign pointing towards the climax.
Okay, so that period sort of sets the scene for the final act. This brings us to the book's predictions about the last days and end-time prophecy. This is where the cosmic controversy really heats up, right? Christ versus Satan over loyalty, truth, worship.
This is the climax, yes. The book dives deep into this.
So what does it predict for the future? It mentions a future union of church and state.
Yes, it predicts a time when major religious bodies and state powers will unite to enforce what it calls false worship.
And that's described using the term mark of the beast. What does that signify in the book's context?
The mark of the beast within this book isn't necessarily a literal mark. It represents forced conformity.
Conformity to what?
To a system of worship established by human authority that directly opposes what the book identifies as God's specific requirements. It's basically a symbol of allegiance to human institutions over divine commands.
Okay, so it's about where your ultimate loyalty lies.
Precisely. And this raises the question, what's the central issue of loyalty in these end times, according to the book?
What does it say?
It identifies the conflict over Sabbath observance specifically, the biblical seventh-day Sabbath versus laws mandating Sunday observance as a key, visible test of loyalty.
So Saturday versus Sunday becomes this major symbolic issue.
That's how the book presents it, yes. A test of allegiance, God's commandments versus human tradition enforced by law. And it warns that those who remain faithful to God's commandments, particularly the Sabbath in this context, will face persecution.
Wow, okay. And it mentions the three angels' messages from Revelation.
Yes, Revelation 14.
Ooh.
The book interprets these messages, which are calls to worship God as creator, warnings against aligning with this beast power, and announcing God's judgment as God's final urgent appeal to the world.
Before the end comes.
Right, before the ultimate conclusion. This really highlights what the book calls the final crisis, where these issues of worship, authority, and obedience reach their absolute peak.
And that ultimate conclusion, the end of this epic battle. How does the book describe it?
It describes the second coming of Christ, not subtly, but with overwhelming power and glory, a visible, dramatic event.
Okay, and what happens then?
The righteous,
Yeah.
both those who died and are resurrected, and those still alive faithful to God are caught up to meet him. The wicked, it says, are destroyed by the brightness of his coming.
And then, is that it?
Not quite. The book outlines a 1,000-year period, the millennium.
What happens during the millennium?
Satan is depicted as being bound, effectively inactive on a desolate earth. Meanwhile, the saved are in heaven with Christ.
Doing what?
Reviewing the records, the judgments of God. The idea is they come to fully understand the justice and fairness of God's actions throughout the controversy.
I see. Giving context and understanding.
Exactly. And then there's the final act, after the millennium.
What's that?
Satan is loosed for a short time, rallies the wicked resurrected for one last desperate rebellion against God and his city, the New Jerusalem, which descends to earth. This final rebellion is swiftly and decisively defeated. Fire comes down from God and consumes them. Sin and sinners are finally eradicated.
And then it's over.
Then it's truly over. The book concludes with God creating a new heavens and a new earth, a restored planet forever free from sin, suffering, and the whole cosmic conflict. It paints this picture of ultimate eternal peace and harmony.
That's the ultimate hope of Christ's return that the book offers.
Yes, that's the end goal. The assurance of ultimate victory for Christ and his people, the complete resolution of the controversy.
So if we try to connect all these pieces, zoom out a bit.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, what we've just explored in the great controversy, it isn't presented as just, a dry historical text or abstract theology.
Right, it feels more active than that.
It's designed, really, as both a warning and an encouragement.
How so?
Well, the book's really profound assertion is that past events directly foreshadow future ones. History provides the pattern. And because of that, it compels readers, or is intended to compel them, to really engage deeply with Scripture, understand this historical prophetic narrative, and prepare for what it describes as Christ's imminent return.
So it's a call to view history as this active battleground for truth.
That's a good way to put it, yes.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? If you consider this idea that every major historical turning point, every debate over truth and authority, every push for freedom of conscience is, according to the specific book, part of this ongoing grand cosmic narrative, it certainly raises a pretty big question, doesn't it? How might understanding this particular perspective, whether you agree with it or not, how might it reshape the way you interpret, say, the news headlines, the social movements happening now, or even just the personal convictions that shape our world today?
It definitely gives you a different lens to look through.
It really does. It leaves you with something pretty significant to consider, maybe explore further from a truly unique vantage point.